Ole Gunnar Solskjaer gone then. Did this all just go on too long?
I think it did. I was surprised it didn't happen maybe after the Liverpool game, the 5-0 defeat, and then you thought it was an opportunity before the international break. We saw a lot of managers lose their jobs there, and it's time for them to, I suppose, just have a look at things, assess things, change things if you need to. But then it clearly just shows that Manchester United didn't have a plan. They expected Ole Gunnar Solskjaer to beat Watford. They didn't. And then it was, OK, we have to act now, we have to do something. Because I think when you lose to your big rivals in Liverpool and the manner of the loss, 5-0 could have been more, performance was awful. Then it happens against Manchester City. Yes, it wasn't 5-0, but you could see the gulf between the two sides. And I think when you looked back to Manchester United at the start of the season, we were actually saying on the show, they've got an opportunity to win something this year. They've got an opportunity to challenge for the Premier League title because of the signings, because of what they did last season. And it just hasn't happened. So I think Ole did well when he first came in, but it's just gone on too long. They now needed that next manager, but they needed it sooner. I think it was just, we have to do something now after that Watford performance and result. OK.
There's so many strands to this story, and we'll try and pick up all the threads over the next few hours on the football show. Let's have a look, though, at some of the positives and negatives, shall we? Here's some of the highlights. First back-to-back top three finishes since Alex Ferguson, 4 semi-finals and a Europa League final. Third best win ratio for post-war Man United manager, so that's a big tick. English record, 29 away game unbeaten run and 16 academy graduate debuts. So there is some highlights there. Alongside that, there was what he talked about, this project that he helped to shape. So where are we at with what he achieved in his time there?
To be honest with you, I think it's when you get the sack, it tells you everything. When you leave the club, I think it was the right thing for Manchester United to do. I think it should have been done a long time ago. Whether he should have even been in charge for the start of the season is debatable because of his credentials as a manager, his ability to put out the right tactics to set the team up properly. Now, it's great going on these runs, but you should be going on runs with the players that they've got in the team. They should not be in the position they're in now. They should be competing for the top 4 places. They should be competing for, if not the Premier League title, with the players that they've got. Now, the argument comes back to if Klopp, Guardiola or Tuchel was in charge, where would that team be now? They'd be a lot more competitive. So I think when you look at the situation of Manchester United, the club have just let it drag on too long. OK, I've got
to pick up on that. There's an argument you said that he shouldn't have started this season.
Yeah.
But where they finished in the Premier League last season, a kick away from winning a European trophy, effectively, weren't they? So if you looked at those omens, you're thinking, right, this is the season we're going to kick on with 3 very impressive signings in the side. We can go one step better in each of these competitions.
Yeah, and that's the hope, isn't it? But it hasn't turned out that way. And when you look at what he does in big games, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, tactically, I think not quite good enough. I think there's times where he's got it right, but there's been luck as well on the side. I thought in the Europa League final, I thought they were poor. I don't think they really, you should be winning that game. You should be you should be more equipped to go out. But I think the big thing for me is if I was a Manchester United fan now, the biggest question, and we ask it every single week on the show, is what's the style of play? What are Manchester United now? Now, big thing for me is Manchester United need to stop living in the past. The Sir Alex Ferguson days have gone and football's evolved since then. So you've got to change your style of play. You've now got to get up to date. All this talk and everyone saying, oh, he took it back to the Sir Alex days. He's made a great atmosphere around the club. Great. You're not winning anything, though. You're not competing for things and you're not getting to the right level you need to get to. But actually, when you look at Solskjaer now and you say, oh, at the beginning of the season, he got them to a great position, but was he ever going to kick them to that next level? Now look at Abramovich and what he does at Chelsea. He knows that he's got them to a certain level, Frank Lampard, and he's going, but can he take them to that elite level? No. So I'm going to go and get someone who can. It's cutthroat, but it's the right thing to do.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it was the right decision to bring him in when they brought him in.
Absolutely.
Because I think it was like that feel-good factor. It was a man that knew the club and it sort of developed relationships.
Yeah, but Sue, would you have given the job full time? Did he deserve that?
I just think because he went on such a good run, I think that was the reason that they did. So,
but they didn't
maybe
have
in
to.
hindsight, no.
Yeah, but they didn't have to give him that contract, did they? They
Yeah.
didn't have to say to him, "God, well done. We're desperate to keep you." You're Manchester United.
Yeah.
People will be desperate to take that job at a certain point. And there'll be managers, agents ringing up Manchester United saying, "Listen, we've got our man here. He's ready to come in." And you go, and Ole did a great job. Don't forget that win that they got in Paris Saint-Germain was off the back of a VAR decision as well. They were going out. They were outplayed on the night. They sat in, they sat deep, they played okay. The tactics were okay, but they got through on a VAR decision, and then everyone jumped on this bandwagon and said, "Oh, he's the man, he's the man." And you think, well, let's play out the rest of the season first and see how he does when the pressure's really on.
Okay, the style of play, what are Manchester United? Hold that thought, because I want to come back. I didn't notice that. I've just practiced that one over there. We'll come back to that one. The bottom line, to pick up on something else Stephen was saying there, no trophy since 2017. Is that the bottom line? Because the bottom line as far as transfers is concerned is actually they have invested heavily, haven't they? Look at those figures for money spent under Solskjaer. It's huge.
Yeah, it is. And I think, going back to what I said, it was important that he came in at a time where they needed somebody like him to bring back that feel-good factor in Manchester United. They then needed another manager to then take them to the next level, to win trophies, to be challenging Champions League, challenging for Premier League titles. And Ole, unfortunately for him, because he is a club legend, just wasn't the man to do that. And I think that's the thing. We looked at it at the start of the season and we said, right, with the players that they've brought in, what they did last season, they have to be challenging. Suddenly the pressure, the expectation is even more so. It always is with Manchester United. You always expect them to be at the top, but it was even more so this season. And he just wasn't able to compete with the likes of Manchester City. When you watch that game, the Manchester City game, the Liverpool game, you could just see the gulf in the two sides. And then obviously the Watford game was just the final straw.
There is an argument that for all that money spent, actually, could have been spent in better areas.
Yeah.
The Declan Rice type signing that people allude to, the lack of perhaps an overall technical director of football, call it what you will, at Old Trafford. Is that part of the underlying problem here as well?
Yeah, I think when you look at Manchester United, I mean, what you try and do is you try and gauge it from the fans and how they feel as well, because they live and breathe the club, so they look at it probably more in depth than we do at times. And the big thing is that decisions have to be made quicker. The decision to not know that your manager, or to know that you might potentially sack your manager, but not have anyone lined up, it's just beyond me. I cannot get my head around that whatsoever. So the decision makers at the top are wrong. Who's making the signings? Who's bringing them players into the club? Is that the manager, or is it someone else above? We believe that is the case. So when you are just given the players and you're thinking, I don't really need that position, there's other places that I need strengthening, but does that become a shirt sale thing? Is it a commercial buy? And when I look at Manchester United players that they've bought in, commercially they're all very high, and that's not good enough. That's not what it should be about. You're trying to build a football team. Are the owners of Manchester United happy just to get into fourth place? Are they happy just to be in and around that area? Or do they want success? Are they desperate to be the elite? Or is it just Champions League football that they're happy with? And that's where you wonder what's going on. But I think from the structure, if a new manager comes in, I think, if you could bring in a new manager in, there's got to be the technical director. It's the way football's going now. There has to be that role within the club. But how long have we been talking about that? How long has Van der Sar been mentioned for as a director of football? Someone who's going to come in and do that role and take that job on. Because often within football, you know who's a good manager and who's not a good manager But the people at the top don't. They don't see what goes on day to day on a football pitch and what makes a manager tick and what makes players thrive every single day. That's what a technical director does. They've got that understanding of being in and around that environment and understanding what is exactly needed from a manager, and especially a manager to be, manager of Manchester United, which is a huge pressure.
Yeah, I think that's the frustration of a lot of Manchester United fans, isn't it? That, OK, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's gone now, but it's what's happening at the top. Who are making those decisions? Are those decisions right? And a lot of the time, that hasn't been the case. It was just a mess, wasn't it? When we seen that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was going, they were going to bring an interim manager for an interim manager before they appointed a real manager, and you just think that's no planning. You have to plan in advance, and I think that's the frustration of a lot of fans. It's OK, Ole's gone, but what was the plan then moving forward? And you alluded to their defensive midfielder. They were crying out for a defensive midfielder. How many times have we said that was something that when you watch Manchester United, they went and got somebody like that. It would have massively helped their season. They didn't do that. So, yeah, director of football, there's so many things beyond Ole Gunnar Solskjaer that has to be sorted out at Manchester United.